Hey everybody, I thought I'd make a quick video on how to make the box and lid from the most recent lesson for Advanced Design for Manufacturing. This lesson was recorded in the spring of 2022. We're going to start by making a new part, and this part is going to be a hollow box with some mounting holes at the bottom. We're going to save this part as config box dot SDLPRT. We actually don't have to put the extension on there. SolidWorks will add it for us automatically. I just save that in my downloads folder, but you can put it wherever you want. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sketch on the top plane. I'm going to use the center point rectangle to make a rectangle that is 100 by 60. So I'm going to add a dimension using the Smart Dimension tool. Specify that as 100 and specify this as 60. Then I'm going to name these dimensions by double clicking on the dimension and changing it from D1 to width, and then accepting that, and then changing the 60 and naming that height, or sorry, depth. Make that our depth, and accept that. And now I want to extrude this, so I'm going to go into features and do extruded boss base. I'm going to set this to a height of 40. Now this won't let me name it yet, but it'll let me name it after I accept the feature. I'm also going to add a draft of 2 degrees in the outward direction. So click on the draft outward option there. And I'm adding that draft because I want this part to be able to be made using injection molding. So accept that. After you've accepted it, if you double click on the boss extrude, be careful not to click the text, click on the little box next to it. If you click the text slowly, sometimes it'll give you the option to rename that as opposed to selecting it. So double click on the little box part. And if I come to the 40 dimension here, I can change this to height to define that as the height of the dimension of the box. I'm just gonna make sure that that got changed. Yep, okay, good. And just verifying that that has the name that I want. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this into an empty box by using the shell tool. I'm going to click on the top of the box to make the top the opening. And I'm going to make the distance of the shell 1 millimeter. So this will be a 1 millimeter thick shell. Alright. And actually I want to add a round to the bottom of this box as well. So I'm just going to roll back this real quick. And if you're watching this, you could just do this before the shell as well. I'm going to use the fillet tool to add a 5 millimeter round to the bottom of the box as well as the 4 sides of the box. And as I said before, it would have been better just to do this before I did the shell, but I forgot. So I'm going to use the rollback bar to go back in time, add that fillet, and then I can roll back forward to show the shell. And that looks pretty good. Alright, now I've got my box here. I'm going to add some mounting holes. So the first one I'm going to use is a custom mounting hole. I'm going to start by sketching on the bottom of the box. I'm going to use Control 8 to go normal 2. And then I'm going to draw a circle that is 10 millimeters from the inner edge of the bottom of the box. So not the outer edge, but actually the bottom of that round. I'm going to use the same thing for the distance to the height. Again, using that inner edge. We'll zoom in on that a little bit so we can see that a little bit better. And then I want to specify the diameter of this circle as 8 millimeters. And then I'm going to extrude that to a height of 8 millimeters. So I'm going to go into Features, Extrude Boss Base, specify a height of 8 millimeters. Make sure that's coming up out of the box, not going down into it. And then accept that. Now I want to add a rib which connects this peg to the side walls, and one of the most important things about the ribs is that the height that you're drawing the line at is important. So I'm going to make sure I click on the top of the peg I just drew, and I'm going to sketch on that face. Okay, I'm going to use Control 8 to go normal 2. And then I'm just going to add 2 lines, one for a vertical web, and then exit the line tool and enter it again. And then one for a horizontal, again just connecting the sides of my circle to the walls of my part. Once I've got those 2 lines drawn, I'll go back into Features and click on the rib tool. I do want this just to be 1 millimeter wide, so I'm going to make that 1 millimeter. And again, I'm going to use the midpoint there so it's going in both directions. And I want to add the same 2-degree draft to my part. And actually I want a 2-degree draft on that peg too, so I'm going to go back and add that. And this one draft outwards, so that should be fine. Let's accept that. And we can see that it is getting wider as it's going down, so that looks good. Let's go back to our Boss Extrude 2. We'll edit that feature to add a draft to it. Again, 2 degrees is fine. And I want all those drafts going in the same direction, so you can see that as we go down into the box, it kind of gets narrower going in. And then as these come out, they get narrower coming out. So that looks great. Now we've got that. I want to add a hole for a number 4, an M4, or maybe an M2. I have an M2 in the handout. Let's look and see what it looks like it'll fit good. So let's draw on that again. Oh, my rib has an error. Probably those edges got converted and they weren't there anymore. There we go. Fix that. So I'm going to go to my hole wizard, and I'm going to position the hole on this top face. I want it centered with respect to this circle that I have there. And my type, I'm using ANSI metric. I think that 4 millimeter there works fine. So I'm going to use this M4 dot 0.7 screw size. The depth of this, I'm going to set this to up to surface, and I'll set it to the kind of the bottom of my part so that way it doesn't go in too deep. And I do have a near side countersink on this, so it's got a little bit of a chamfer on that top face, which I think looks pretty good. Alright, with that there, I'm going to mirror it so I have the same feature on all 4 corners. So I'm going to click on that feature, the right plane, and then the mirror tool. And I'll make sure I get all the faces in here, not just that tapped hole. Let's get the boss and the rib. And then I'll click on the mirror again and the front plane. I'll mirror one more time. And that gives me the other side of that. Again, those look fine. If you don't like these circles showing here, I can come into my tapped hole and I can hide these sketches so that they don't show up. Oop, looks like they were already hidden. There you go. I hid the cosmetic thread callout so you don't see that extra line, which I think looks a little better. Alright, now I want to make another different configuration of this, so I'm going to suppress my mounts. And I'm going to add some alternate mounts using the mount tool. I'm going to insert, fastening feature, mounting boss. I'm going to position these on the bottom surface. Oh, I need some locations for these first. Let's actually draw the locations first. So let's click on that bottom fair surface again and sketch. And we'll use the same positions for each of these as we used for the center of our holes in the previous example. So I'm going to put the centers of all of these at 10 millimeters from the sides on each of the directions. Now if we want to use a different positions for these, we could, but we do want to make sure that if we change the size of the box, that it doesn't get too close together or too close to the sidewalls or anything like that. So this is kind of a conservative value. If you want to use different values, moving them kind of horizontally in and out from the sides is probably a little bit better than vertically. Or you can use a slightly smaller mounting boss or something like that to better fit into the box if it gets too small. But all of these 10 should work fine for this example. Alright, we've got our positions there. Now we can move to our mounting boss. So I'm going to rotate that a little bit. Going to my tools, insert fastening feature, mounting boss. I've had that last point selected already. If you don't have the location selected, you can always just click on the point. And then for the type, I'm going to change this from a head to a thread because I want to tap into this really to have my screws be in place. I'm also going to position this so the fins are perpendicular to this opposite face. That helps us kind of line it up, which is not really that important from a structural standpoint. It just looks a little bit better. I'm using all the default sizes here for the boss, but if you wanted to change this to make it taller or wider or whatever, you could. This one is a little bit taller than the other ones, so we use a height of 8, so we could change that if we wanted to. We would need to make sure that this is not bigger than it can be for the other dimensions. But let's just leave it as the defaults for now, because it'll make this a little bit quicker. I'm going to use the sketch pattern to pattern these out. The selections are going to be based off of my sketch I just made, so I'm going to go into my mounting boss and click on sketch 7 from within the mounting boss. I'm also going to have these start relative to a selected position, and I'm going to use the same position I used to make the mounting boss as the starting point for all of these. So let's see if we can't get that point. I'm going to try showing my sketch and then clicking the point. There we go. And again, this is probably not going to work without using a geometry pattern, so I'm going to click on the geometry pattern and then accept, and it should give us all 4 of those things pretty nicely. Now I want to make this configurable so I can have multiple different size boxes without having to remake the part. So I'm going to go into Insert, and then I want Tables, or maybe it's in Tools. Oh no, here it is, Tables, Design Table. I'm going to use the default settings throughout here. And I want to use the height, width, depth. I also want my thickness for my shell, which I probably should have relabeled, but I left as D1 on there. And then I also want to be able to configure my mounting points, so I'm going to double click on each of the features after my shell so I can configure those as well. And then I'm going to add a couple different sets on here. I'm going to specify the big condition with mounts. I'll use this as the default mounts. I'll do big with custom holes, small with the mounts, and small with custom. And then for my big ones, I'm just going to add 20 to each of these values. So 20, 80, 60, and maybe make this thicker, so 2. And then again, I'll use the same values for the big and the custom, so I'm just going to copy and paste those in. For the small, make them all 20 smaller, so we'll do 80, 40, 20. I think I'm going to use 1 for the thickness there, because I don't want to go much smaller than 1 millimeter thick. That's thin enough, I think. And then for my ones with the mounts, the current ones are the mounting brackets, so I'm going to want to have those be unsuppressed. Suppressed is actually the same as a 1 or an S. Let's just use S to be a little easier here. This is not any harder to type in suppressed since it autofills for me. And then we'll use unsuppressed for the sketch pattern and the mounting boss. I want to use the same thing for the small mount, so I'm going to copy that. On here, I think I'll just use 0s and 1s. So in this case, I want my my mirrors and my custom features to be unsuppressed, which is a 0, and then my mounting box to be suppressed, which is a 1. Copy those and paste those in. When I click outside of the text, it's going to automatically try and add those to my configurations. So just give it a second here. There we go. And now I've got the ability to automatically switch between these different configurations. So there's the big configuration with the mounting blocks, the big one with the custom blocks, the small one with the default mounting blocks, and then the small one with the custom mounting blocks. And you can see all of those work, so that works out fine. Sometimes you can generate geometries that don't work and it won't rebuild properly, but that's all part of your design and making sure you have appropriate parameters. So that's it for the box. I think I'll make a separate video for the lid. Thanks for watching.